Peck here from CHGO Bulls. We got a live pod for y'all right around the corner talking the latest on the NBA trade market, including what's going on with some of the Bulls. We're going to be talking with the one and only, the People's Insider, Jake Fischer. That's coming up next. What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome in to the CHGO Bulls Podcast. Coming to you live from our studios here in West Loop, downtown Chicago. I'm Peck, Bulls_Peck. That is Big Dave. Bam, bam. EWL Sports. Will, the GOAT, perfectly coiffed. Gottlieb, Will_Gottlieb. And our queen on the controls, the one and only, Katie Duffy. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Off day number 2 for the Bulls this week before their next game on Friday. Big news before we dive into all this trade talk, guys. Apparently, Mama Duffy has started watching the show.
Mama Katie, baby.
Mama Katie.
Mama Katie.
And is on board with us nagging Katie about singing the Empire Jingle or lack thereof.
Well, obviously, Mama Katie is an amazing human being.
Of course.
You know, and I don't doubt that for one second. So, yeah, she's great. She's awesome. Thanks for watching the show. Thanks for enjoying it. You are an amazing human being and a wonderful person. Thank you for loving it.
If Mama can't get her to sing, who can?
Who can? You know, like she said, she's got pride. But as I tell you, pride goeth before the fall.
I hate you guys. I hate you guys so much. For context, I got a text from my mother last night with a little Bitmoji of a woman singing.
Hey, Mama Katie.
And it was 588-2300 Empire. So,
yeah.
you know, she's trying to get me to sing. It's not going to happen.
It's all right. As long as she knows, you know, that it's the right thing to do and the fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Mama knows.
It is. Do we
Mama
have
knows.
Empire on our schedule today? Oh,
not today.
We do not.
Not today.
That's
not
a
today.
shame.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
I think we do have. He just said he is in here, so I don't know if Katie. No. All right, let me try.
See. While we are trying to get Jake Fischer on the line, he back on, I believe it was November 29th, day after Thanksgiving, had a great column that he is. I like that he's contributing also on the Stein line. Mark Stein Substack, our guy Mark Stein, who's also down there doing DLLS Maverick stuff for All City. And you know, the lead in for Jake Fischer's column was basically like, yeah, there's some teams that are going to be changing direction at this midseason trade deadline. You know, Brooklyn, some of these other teams, Washington, having pieces for sale. But he said no in-season trade deadline discussion begins anywhere other than the Chicago Bulls.
Wow.
I think a lot of Bulls fans saw that and were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe this front office is actually going to try and make some in-season moves.
It feels like, you know, the bell of the ball kind of thing. You know, like the line starts behind us. Like, is Zach going to ask Kelly? And then if Kelly turns him down, then he goes get somebody else. But that's how it's cool to hear that. I'm interested to see how it goes and plays out because I think we all kind of want it that way. Teams to be looking at the Chicago Bulls because, Will, if we're talking about talent and as far as guys who are tradable, I mean, Bulls are at the top of the list.
Yeah, I think I'm very curious to hear what Jake has to say about this because there are just so many questions about whether, obviously the Bulls have a lot of talented guys, but are they going to be tradable? What is the market going to look like?
Right.
And so, yeah, it's going to be very exciting to hear what Jake has to say about it here.
That was the word.
I heard a jingle, Katie. Do we have him? Heck yeah. All right, let's welcome him in now.
Hey.
Known as the People's Insider. You can get his NBA reporting by subscribing to the Stein line on Substack.com, something I highly recommend. You can also catch his stuff on Bleacher Report, formerly of Yahoo Sports. The one and only Jake Fischer. Follow him on Twitter at Jake L. Fischer. Jake, welcome to the program, man. How are you? Muted?
Not hearing him.
That's cool. Think you're muted. I think we can't hear. We see you talking, but we can't hear what you said.
TV volume off.
What?
Wait, we heard something. We heard something. Nope, not yet. Not yet. Not yet.
This is great radio.
This is great radio. Yes.
Sounds like he can hear us.
He can hear us loud and clear. Yes, he hears us loud and clear.
Confirming he can hear us. And
let's also confirm he looks amazing. Loving the glasses, loving the hair. Everything looks smooth right there. He came ready to do this.
Maybe try closing out and reopening the link.
Okay, we'll shut it down and come on back. There we go.
Audio. Check them audio settings. Yeah.
But being the bell of the ball is a fun thing.
And I also like that, according to Jake's reporting, it seemed like the Bulls were being the proactive participants.
Yeah.
Saying, according to league sources, the Bulls have been messaging rival front offices that they are willing to discuss the majority of their roster in trade talks leading up to that February deadline.
And what's so funny about it is that it could not be more opposite of what we've seen the last 3 years, where they literally have not made a single trade, let alone trying to flip maybe their whole roster. I mean, who knows what it'll actually turn out to be, but clearly a change in organizational directive of what they're actually even trying to do here, let alone what they will do.
Yeah,
including as recently as last season's trade deadline, when Philly, according to multiple credible sources and reports, said, hey, we'll throw you guys a couple of second-round picks for Andre Drummond. The Bulls said, no, we can't go to the play-in tournament without Andre Drummond. We need Andre Drummond.
And then where did Andre Drummond end up?
For Philly. In Philly. And the Bulls got nothing out of that.
Got nothing out of that.
Great job, guys.
Awesome job.
And then the one that I think Tim McMahon brought up in the Hoop Collective that we were talking about on yesterday's show, recalling that a couple years ago, Dallas was calling about Zach. And wanting Zach before they found their way to Kyrie Irving in that big trade. And the Bulls said, no.
Yeah. No. I'll stay.
We got Zach. We're going places. You can't have Zach.
You can't have him. He belongs to us. He is ours. And I when you were talking about yesterday, saying what not Bontemps, but
Brian Windhorst.
Thank you. Saying what Windhorst was saying about Zach LaVine and being tradable those 2 years ago. Bontemps, the part you left out was Bontemps' reply to that. This is where he was like, yeah, because 2 years ago when the Mavericks tried to get Zach LaVine, the Bulls told them no, absolutely not. So teams were definitely high, obviously, on Zach LaVine. I think they still are, talent-wise and things like that. But as Will continues to point out all the time, it is not about the talent on Zach LaVine. It is about the actual contract of him. So I think the Bulls know who they are. It's great to hear that they want to be the team that's involved, but it's wild because it's like, again, I'm equating everything to dating. It's like, turning down somebody so many times, to go out with them. And then when you go through your thing and realize, okay, maybe they were a good person. All right, I'm yours. And they're like, no. I don't want any of that. I'm not cool with that at all. So, yeah, man.
Cool with it.
Not cool with it. And it's okay. And it's not okay. Like they should have been more proactive on these things. We've heard about the things they've turned down and the things that they've missed. You mentioned Andre Drummond. I mean, Caruso, we yelled about from the beginning. When that trade broke, we were sitting here. Shout out Kendall Gill.
Hey.
When that trade broke, we were sitting here having that conversation. So, and we were all sitting there like, okay, we're just waiting to hear what else is coming with the trade. Because clearly that isn't the only thing that's going to be with this.
Yeah.
They're going to have other things. That's normal that they just say, oh, here are the players. And then Shams or, Woj will go ahead and tell us, hey, guess what? They got draft picks and stuff. They got compensation. They got considerations. We waited and waited and waited. And we're like children who did not get their favorite toy at Christmas. We were sadly disappointed, man. It was tough. It was tough, man.
Fortunately, Bulls fans are used to disappointment.
Are you used to it or just, know it? You know what I mean?
Well, okay, yeah, no, that's good.
We just know it.
I'll never. Well, yeah, no, I am used to it. I always expect to be let down.
That's how it be sometimes, man. But yeah, like we were talking yesterday, I think everybody here is tradable. Obviously, outside of Modest, and that's what I wanted to ask Mr. Fischer about, if he felt that same way too. But I feel like everybody here outside of Modest, you should be taking those phone calls on and hearing out what anybody has to say, because no matter how much you like these guys and no matter how much you want to keep these guys, you still can't put together a record that gets you over 500. And that's been the struggle and the bottom line of it all for me, is you still can't do that. You're still hovering at that play-in. You're still at the 9, still at the 10. You don't strike anyone as a team that can even get into the play-in and then make that run.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't strike that fear, you know, in those guys' hearts, kind of like the Miami Heat did.
Right.
So when you're that kind of team and you're just hovering, even Atlanta Hawks did it. You know what I mean? We saw the Hawks actually go to an Eastern Conference final. But when you don't strike that kind of fear in those teams where they're worried about you and they're just like, oh, yeah, you're just a warm-up. Let's get you up out of here. That's fine when you're a young team. Not when you're a team with some veterans and stuff like that and you're trying to win. It just looks really, really bad. So, yeah, man, it's a struggle. It's really tough. I'm glad they're here at this realization. But the NBA's been there for the Chicago Bulls and at that realization. The question is, will they still continue to stay there?
Yeah. And, you know, this also comes in a time when we're getting closer to that December 15th line, when a lot of these freshly signed players this past offseason can be put into trades. Mm-hmm. We talked a lot yesterday about the difficulty of the new CBA rules, specifically those teams above the first and second apron, and how the Bulls might still be able to make some deals, even if one of them isn't Zach LaVine. So I think that there's a lot there, starting with Vooch and going down to some of these other vets. And even as we've talked about, some of the younger guys, as you were just saying, Dave, who might not necessarily be off limits.
Yeah.
Let's knock out our first break here, and then we'll come back. We're still trying to get Jake Fischer on the line, and we'll do that. You hit the like button, listen to some ads. More on CHGO Bulls right after this. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Sunnyside. Oh, my goodness. We love the people at Sunnyside and all of their great products and services. My goodness. They also have a new thing for the holidays, the Scratch. Ooh. Doesn't everybody do you like getting them in your stockings? You ever do scratch
we never
offs
did
in your
that.
stockings? Never done that?
We never did that, but that is a cool thing to get in your stocking, bro.
You can do it with Sunnyside.
Shout out.
Sunnyside Scratch and Stash is back again this holiday season, y'all. Receive a scratch-off card every single time you shop at one of Sunnyside's wonderful dispensaries, now through December 31st. Every single card is a winner. You could win big, like 50% off, or even $100 off your next purchase when you use those Sunnyside Scratch and Stashes. And again, every single card of that Sunnyside Scratch and Stash game is a winner. You will win some sort of discount, some sort of dollar off on your purchase. So head to your nearest Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, locations all over this great state of Illinois. A wonderful selection, over 100 different strains to choose from. Of course, flower, you got the vapes, you got cartridges, you got all kinds of stuff pre-rolled. Stop in the store nearest you and choose from great quality brands like Cresco and FloraCal. Check out the limited time offer on Good News Island Vibes line of products. Lots of delicious ones there.
Yeah, man.
Use that promo code HICHGO when shopping at Sunnyside.shop and get 50% off your first 3 online purchases. That's promo code HICHGO, 50% off your first 3 online purchases at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensaries, bright buys every day, 21 and over, and Illinois Med card holders.
You know what, man? I am very, very excited because, well, one, that you're here, but 2,
I'm excited you're here too, Dave.
Thank you. Let me tell you why I'm extra excited, because we get to have a discussion.
Oh,
it's comment talk time.
My favorite kind of discussion.
Comment talk time.
Comment talk time.
Because you know, Matt, ComEd can help businesses save money by becoming more energy efficient.
Are you freaking kidding me?
I know.
I didn't know that, Dave. Tell me more.
I sure will, Matthew Peck. The energy efficiency program can help find up to 35% in energy savings.
I'm sorry, you just short-circuited my brain. 35%. That's incredible. So what do businesses have to do to take advantage of this offer?
Just sign up for a free facility assessment at comed.com/biz.
That's it?
That's it.
That's it. That's all you have to do? Why aren't more businesses taking advantage of this, Dave? Why are people doing this?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe they forgot the website or something?
Forgot the web, but you just told it to me.
I did.
You just told it to everybody. It's comed.com/biz,
What'd
right?
you say?
comed.com/biz.
One more time for me.
comed.com/biz.
Mm-hmm.
Biz?
That should do it right there. Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change. Actual savings will vary by customer's energy usage and rate. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is funded in compliance with a state law. Hey, Julia. Yes, the ads are hilarious. Thank you very much. We appreciate
This is
that.
what we do.
Yes.
I like how, meanwhile, Brian in the comments just said, trade everyone.
Yeah, I was.
Who are you, LeBron? Everyone.
Oh, man. A lot of people in the comments say, trade. I saw one person say trade everyone but Kobe and Io, and I see the closer saying trade Kobe. Like, everybody, is just on the fence about what they want. Listen, everybody's.
If there's one thing Bulls fans do, it's have opinions about things and disagree about those opinions. Katie, how are we doing post-ad break? Do we have a Jake Fischer on the line?
I think we're going to give it a shot.
We're going to give it a shot.
Give it a shot?
Hopefully we
give
get
it a try.
Let's see if we can bring in the one and only People's Insider, Jake Fischer.
Let's see.
On the Go Talk hotline.
Look at him.
You hear me?
Yeah! Let's go!
Oh, heck yeah.
What's up, y'all? How we doing?
What's up, Jake? Thank you for joining us, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate you hanging tight through the technical difficulties. That Go Talk hotline, I don't know. Maybe he's just claiming dibs on it because it's usually just him calling us from the United Center.
Well, I don't know. I think all that matters is we're here now, and I really enjoyed watching the ad read, so that's all that mattered.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We are here to entertain and also sell stuff because, got to get paid. Jake, we were just kind of going through some of the high points of your column from the Stein line, Substack.com. Y'all, again, shout out, read it if you haven't, subscribe if you haven't, where you basically said that all pre-trade deadline discussions in today's NBA and likely sellers starts with Arturas Karnisovas and the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, Zach's name, Zach LaVine, has been thrown out there a lot recently, but we are also talking about those second apron teams and how hard it is now to trade a person attached to a contract like Zach's. You ruled out some former shooters in that column. You mentioned Golden State. You mentioned Sacramento, even the Pistons. Has anything changed from what you're hearing and from who you're talking to as far as Zach basically being untradeable because of these CBA rules?
Yeah, I don't know if he's untradeable more so from the CBA rules as opposed to just the value of his contract, right? It makes it a lot harder because of the new CBA rules. The fact that so many teams now in the first apron can't aggregate, or in the second apron, you can't aggregate salaries. In the first apron, you can't take back $1 more than you send out. So it limits your optionality. But I think before that, there just weren't that many teams because honestly, the only thing new that I don't think I really included in that article from, I think that was Black Friday or the day before Thanksgiving, whenever it was that I think it's not just about the contract value and Zach as a player. It's the combination of the contract value and his injury history too. He's not a 24-year-old bouncy athlete anymore. He's a bouncy athlete who has a lot of miles, has missed a lot of games on those legs that won dunk contests and helped him shoot step back threes over every defender, So it's not just the contract. It's not just the CBA. I think it's the injury history as well. It's been a pretty big deterrent of him being considered anything close to positive trade value right now.
I guess we've been kind of operating under the assumption that with the way that he's playing, maybe there would be a better likelihood of not only him being moved, but the Bulls maybe getting some positive value back. As Matt said, there were some potential suitors last year, some teams that, either the Bulls talked to and it didn't work out for whatever reason. Do you feel like, are there going to be teams, or could you name any teams that might be interested, whether or not they can actually make it work? I think the question of, are there going to be suitors is kind of the most important domino that needs to fall before obviously anything can happen after that.
Yeah, I think, and I'm not reporting right now, hand to God, the Golden State Warriors are interested in Zach LaVine. That's not what's happening. But just in relation to today, where I think the whole news cycle in the NBA rumor mill has really started with Jimmy Butler in Miami, and Golden State's a team that he mentions. The Warriors are absolutely on the phones. I mean, and they're not so aggressively trying to get someone right now. But when the Warriors are talking to other teams, they're leaving other teams with the impression that the Warriors are looking to really add some scoring and some star-powered scoring, especially being that their team, it's not like Nikola Jokic in Denver, but their team is so different of a offensive weapon, firepower, whatever, when Steph's on the bench compared to when he's on the floor. And they're kind of missing that extra pop that was there if you're looking at this from how closely can Golden State kind of like rekindle the flames or rebalance the equation that won the 2022 NBA title, there's no Jordan Poole on this team right now. There's no like Steph goes to the bench and you have a lifeblood offensive creator guy. So I'm just saying, if they go through Jimmy Butler and B.I., all the guys on the board right now, like how many guys are better than Zach LaVine, younger, more health, less concerning. And then you factor at a certain point in time, on December 10th, the fact that Zach's got 2.5 years left on his contract might be more of a reason not to go after him. Then like you get to February 1st, he's still playing this way. You still need someone. This is not just Golden State too. This logic could work for everyone. All of a sudden you're like, he's only got 2 years left after this one at this number, which is the same number that Brandon Ingram or Jimmy Butler or whoever is going to want also. So like I understand why that math and all those factors could look different compared to how they look right now.
Jake, just looking at this Bulls roster and factoring in contract and factoring in talent, who, in your opinion, is the most tradable piece on this Chicago Bulls team?
It's a good question. I'm starting to talk myself into Lonzo Ball expiring contract. Like, can he be just a spot defender guy somewhere? But I've just always had a soft spot for Lonzo, so maybe that's my bias showing through. And I also think, like, I've got a soft spot for Nikola Vucevic. Like, I came up in Philly, like, kind of covering the process Sixers, and Vuce just, like, is shooting the piss out the ball. And I know that he's not, like, a defensive anchor by any stretch. Like, I literally just watched – I want to do a little bit of homework. I just watched some of the Bulls Sixers game on Sunday before popping on here with you guys. And, like, he strips Joel on a couple of possessions and he handles his own. I don't know. There aren't that many bigs out there who can shoot 40% from three and are a walking 20 and 10 threat, who are, like, utmost professional, going to be a good presence in your locker room, the kind of guy that, like, at $20 million isn't so crazy to me. But then, like, someone texted me after that article last week and said, you're crazy thinking that Vooch could get 2 seconds. That, like, one GM told me he thought he would maybe pay for him. So I don't know. I think of all those guys, like of every single guy on the roster, I think Kobe White probably has the most trade value, but I also think he's, like, most likely the least likely to get dealt. So of the guys who I think that, the big name guys, the veteran guys who make a lot of money, from like a sheer math standpoint, like I am talking myself into Lonzo. I do think that Vooch has much more of like a plug and play. If a team misses out on so-and-so, or if the Wizards just decide they haven't gotten a high enough offer for Valanciunas and he's not really on the board, even though everyone thinks he's on the board. I don't know. You always try to figure out how, like, the dominoes can fall. So, like, this is the guy that one team is trading for. I think there's several of those, maybe more so than Zach, just because the salary's half the cost. And he's always just been that, like, utmost professional locker room presence kind of person.
Just kind of following up with Vooch, I was noticing that whole, the GM from your column saying, hey, you could probably get 2 seconds for him. I don't think that's crazy if you're talking about Vooch the way you just did. This dude's a walking 20 and 10 who's having a career year shooting the ball. You mentioned Valanciunas. I think it was Anthony Irwin who said earlier today the Lakers are a team that's certainly going to be interested in him. But, I mean, do you see a big man as the thing? And we were just talking about the Warriors and them needing a scorer / playmaker. They don't have a Jordan Poole on this roster for when Steph needs a rest. Is Vooch's name, in your eyes, going to be maybe top 10 coveted players that are on, the trade block available for sale, for trade because of the way he's playing? Or is it just like, if a team gets desperate that they aren't desperate now, then maybe a trade for Vooch could materialize?
Like top 10 of all players in the NBA or a top 10 center?
Well, yeah, no, you know what? Top 10 trade targets before the deadline. Do you think he's in that conversation right now?
No, I don't, unfortunately. As much as I, again, have a huge soft spot for Vooch, And like I sat down with him in Manila at the World Cup in 2023. He was such a nice guy. Has always been a nice guy. I don't think so. I think the highest trade value guys are going to be guys who are on considered like amazing value deals. Like right now, if the Portland Trailblazers, this is just a name out of the hat. If the Portland Trailblazers were able to get like a first round pick for Tumani Kamara, who was kind of like a throw in as a second round pick back to the Blazers in the Damian Lillard 3-team trade that brought Grayson Allen to Phoenix and Nurk to Phoenix and all that. Like, I think in terms of like most top 10, like most coveted, it's going to be guys who are, like Alex Caruso pre OKC deal, like someone like that who is under mid-level salary. I mean, Valanciunas is just going to end up being probably the most coveted center in the market, because if you compare him to Vooch or Clint Capella at like 21 million in Atlanta, or even, I don't know, the Pacers are 10 and 15, like they've dangled Miles Turner out there forever. Like Miles Turner, I'm not saying he's like on the market for sure right now. I haven't checked that yet, but like if you call the Pacers, I'd be shocked if they weren't willing to talk about him, because they were for years. And now he's an expiring contract and they're out of the playoff picture. So like, I'm sure that they'd be willing to engage in a conversation. Valanciunas is half the price of all those guys. So I think that was part of the deal. I think like on one hand, he's potentially like a discount by comparison, but on the other hand, that was probably far and away the most money he could have gotten on the market this year, as close to a full mid-level exception with Washington. But I think there was like an understanding that we're probably going to trade you if you sign this, which I don't think he cared about. I think he got a starting job and a good deal at a later stage of his career. So that's just what it is. But it's just funny how these things flip so quickly, where that was like a low contract for him, but now it's like a good thing because you can fit that math easily. It's interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned the mid-level guys, and obviously Kobe's making 13 this year. The Bulls also have Ayo Dosunmu, who's making, I think, 7 right now. Patrick Williams, who we spoke to today at practice, he's going to be making a return soon. He's at 18, and you mentioned him on a BR Live a couple of weeks ago. You mentioned probably not wanting to – you mentioned the Bulls probably not wanting to move on from a Kobe White, but they're in a situation where their pick is going to the Spurs if it falls outside the top 10. They need to start losing some games here somehow. Do you think that they would turn towards maybe moving one of those younger players who's on a more reasonable contract in order to get some future draft capital so that they can kind of reorient this thing? Or do you get the sense that those guys are people that the Bulls are trying to build around here as they start to turn the page away from a Zach and a Vooch, assuming those deals happen at some point?
I haven't gotten any indication that they're looking to part with those players. I think what I was trying to say, as I ignore this phone call, what I was trying to say on that BR Live is that the Bulls are just giving the impression to all these teams, like, you go to a United Center game, there's AK and whoever talking to so-and-so from the opposing team because they're in town, or someone, Mark Eversley's on the road at some college tournament scouting, and guys go out for dinner and people are talking. I'm not trying to out Arturas and Mark right now. I'm just saying this is how the info flows to kind of paint the picture for you guys. Like, there's no one on the Bulls roster that's like their version of Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner for a far more established standpoint. If you want to look at like younger players, there's no one on the Bulls roster that's like Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Zach Ricochet in Atlanta either. And the fact that they are off to this start, the fact that Patrick Williams is off to the start that he's off to, I think like just more of a turn of phrase, like they'd probably be more willing than ever to discuss someone like him. However, this is not the time to move him. Like, this is probably the time where his value is at its absolute nadir on the trade market. Everyone around the league, team people, agents, whoever, who talk about like Patrick Williams as a trade commodity, talk about how the Bulls, not so totally dissimilar to what happened with Vooch, honestly. Like, who were they bidding against to pay that average annual value to both those guys? And I was just saying, I don't think Vooch is such a terrible value play contract, but like if his salary was 15 a year instead of 20, I mean, I think there's far more opportunity for him on the market right now. And if Patrick Williams, I mean, No one was matching 20 for Vooch. And I had heard, OKC had interest in Patrick Williams, that Charlotte had interest in him, that Toronto had interest in him on an offer sheet. But like the deal got done right away. I don't think anyone outside of the Bulls front office really thinks that is a value deal at this juncture compared to what the marketplace would pay him if he was an open, unrestricted free agent tomorrow. And that like the market's probably worse than where it was in the summer when they gave that shocking deal, and now his performance has been less, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
Definitely. Those margins really matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
They do. It's, speaking of margins, the Bulls have a couple of vets getting DNPs basically because of this youth movement they're trying to steer towards, Jake. Does a name like Torrey Craig, who there were some rumors or reports going around that the Bucks might be interested in his services. He's barely played this season. Javon Carter, a guy who can get hot and knock down some shots for you off the bench, also on a very reasonable contract this year. Are you hearing anything about either of those guys as sort of like a fringe or, supporting role player kind of trade target for teams out there that are heading towards the playoffs?
Good question.
Yeah, I wrote about the value of minimum contracts in this CBA landscape last week. And I do think Torrey Craig for that, the Bucks, it makes sense being that he played there very recently, and the Bucks are a second apron team, and they don't have very many mechanisms to get better, but they could trade Torrey Craig since he signed a veteran minimum salary. They could trade for him at any point in time because they're already in the second apron. If they were to like trigger an apron rule, that's one thing, but the fact they're already there in hell, that's like one of the few things they could actually do. And like there is a scenario in theory that the Bulls could like send out the Bucks, could send out Marjon Beauchamp in return for Torrey Craig. Like in that scenario, there's like a way to make it work, capitalize that it's kind of making a traded player exception for a veteran minimums exception kind of thing. But that's just kind of connecting two separate things that would make sense. And other teams outside of like any team can add a player of Torrey Craig's contract value without triggering anything, depending on how they make the math work. You saw the Knicks swing a bunch of sign and trade stuff. That's not, you don't have access to that in season right now, but you can break trades up in different ways with exception stuff to kind of figure out a way to make sure you get your vet minimum guy. Javon Carter is going to be more difficult, but I do think right now, this is not exactly something that I would like be willing to name as like a trend at this moment, but just looking around the league, talking around the league, the style of play has become so homogenized. And for a guy who can get his own off the dribble, it just like adds value in the postseason because so few players right now are actually able to do that consistently. Javon's not exactly like Dennis Schroeder, right? But he has the threat to get to the basket. That's like something that I think is a pretty commodifiable asset for playoff teams who are looking at, man, we just like don't have enough on-ball creation right now. His salary is not too expensive. I mean, he's rep by Mark Bartelstein, who's one of the best agents in the business. So I think there'll be even more optionality for that to happen. But yeah, there is a possibility. I just think that that number could come to be too difficult for a certain team.
Jake, do you feel the Bulls are maybe a little too late with how they finally decided to say, okay, we are open to hearing about trades for these young guys? Is this something that you feel they should have been on already, or it's just the cards that they've been dealt now?
Yeah, I think ultimately, the 2021, or was it January 2022? Yeah, January 2022 when Lonzo got hurt and they were first in the East. Like, it's just so hard. I mean, I think about this a lot when I try, because, we're on here and just talking about players' names and talking about just plucking them from their city where their family lives and their kids are enrolled in school and whatever. And it's like fun trade math. We can talk about it in a calculator. And like, even, someone like Arturas, who wanted to be a GM in the NBA and like interviewed at certain places. Like he was a Milwaukee finalist before he finally got this job, and he gets the opportunity. And, it's not, you don't just get to pick your chance sometimes, right? Like it's Chicago, Zach LaVine's your all-star. You go out and you just do the best you can. You get Vooch, you get Lonzo, you get DeMar. It's all working. And like, it's hard to, it's just like being in a relationship where like sometimes it's hard to break up because it's so good and there's so much good here. So like, and we've seen it. So we just got to like work on a couple things here around the margins and make things better. And we'll get back to, the good old days. And I understand why it's difficult for teams to not recognize it. However, I think the most shrewd way to go about this stuff is to sell early or maybe sell like before it's too late and know when that time is coming. And I think the fact that this was an older group, regardless, that should have probably been or could have been an indicator. Like this was not, DeMar and Vooch. I mean, Lonzo was maybe 24 when they brought him in, 23. It was off his rookie deal. He came out as a freshman, so he couldn't have been much older than that. But DeMar and Vooch were available largely because they didn't have so many options for Orlando on the trade market, for DeMar on that first sign and trade, because they were getting up in age and people were hedging against their ultimate regression. So I think because of that, there could have been maybe some additional foresight in thinking like the longer this progresses, the harder it's going to be to rebottle and recapture that magic from a year or two ago, because a year or two ago is harder for 32 to 34-year-old guys to reclaim. I feel that now. I'm 30 now. I'm going to go play pickup after I hang up with you guys, and I'm not going to feel good tomorrow.
We got to get you out of here on this one, but really appreciate your time and your insights.
We have to get out because I have to go to pickup. I'm not joking.
Exactly.
Get
a couple buckets for us. I guess I'm just curious, like, how do you think this plays out this season for the Bulls at the trade deadline? Do they get anything done? I mean, it sounds like kind of everything is a long shot at this point. So do you see them making any substantial, meaningful moves to their roster to where they can actually, like I said, kind of start to turn the page on this group that should have happened already a couple years ago at this point?
Yeah, there are certain scenarios like the Nets with Dennis Schroeder, for example, where I'm like, that's going to be a trade because the money works. He's good. Brooklyn has every reason to move off of him. The reason the Bulls have been so interesting is like, I could just see them talking themselves into, all right, we're a play-in team come February. And look, it's great to sell subscriptions and to talk about on your show, and you guys have to do tons of daily shows all the time. I'm aware of the All City strategy. So like, it's fun to talk about all this stuff, but the reality is like December 15th coming Sunday is almost assuredly not going to bring a flurry of trades, and the overwhelming number of trades that get discussed by front offices don't happen. And the Bulls have a lot of factors working against them, even if they were to decide to sell. So like, there is a very real scenario that like Chicago just says, we're selling all these guys for the highest price, and that's that. And then like, there isn't even a price at a certain point in time. You know what I mean? Like, for like actual offer being sent across a phone line, and like, if you take this, we'll do this trade. Like, sometimes preliminary conversations happen and like you hear a team's interested and like they called and checked and then like didn't get any further. So that's all to say, like, I don't think the Bulls have a clear-cut stamped, we are going to do this and we're going to do it at no matter what, and they're just going to follow those marching orders. I think there's still some wiggle room and some margins for like, all right, let's see how well this team does. Let's see what the price is. Like, we're not going to move him for that little kind of thing, because even, with Vooch, to go back to him, all of a sudden next year he does become an expiring contract. And the way these things flow, it's just like someone could say on June 30th, instead of on June 24th, instead of on February 6th, all right, Vooch at $20 million for an expiring contract, I'll take it. That they wouldn't have done in February. So there's so many sliding parts that I don't think the Bulls are like Utah, Washington, Brooklyn. Like, we are selling. So I think they're willing to sell everyone. It's just a matter of like what's going to come in.
Well, make sure you stretch before and after your pickup game, Jake. We appreciate the time. Cannot recommend it enough. Subscribe to that Stein line on Substack where you can get Jake's stuff as well as our guy Mark Stein. Make sure you follow him, Jake L. Fischer, on that Twitter machine. Appreciate you, Jake.
Young Fish. Let's take this break.
Let's do it. Let's take a break. Hit that like button. Katie keeps asking you to do it.
She's not going to stop.
Ads.
Hey, Mama Katie. Guess what? That. We are sponsored by Chicago Sports Network, the new home of the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox games. CHSN will broadcast more than 300 live games per year across the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox, and will feature a full lineup of original Chicago-focused sports content. They are Chicago-based, they are Chicago-built, and they are Chicago to the bone. And they're bringing it to every corner of Chicago across our beautiful 77 neighborhoods and beyond. At CHSN, Chicago comes first. Visit chsn.com for more info on how to watch Bulls, Hawks, and Sox games all season long. And after you watch those games, tune into the post game for the Bulls, Hawks, and White Sox right here at CHGO.
Beer?
What?
Beer.
Come on.
Today's show brought to you by our friends at Coors Light.
Let's go.
Between work, social media, the choices life throw our way, it's no wonder we can get a little worked up sometimes.
Let's
maybe
go.
Maybe it's Jake Fischer squashing the hopes and dreams of Bulls fans, hoping for some trades. Coors Light celebrates rising above all that stress and noise and choosing a chill mindset. Why not turn a rained-out barbecue into the 1 billionth annual, co-hosted Will Gottlieb and Uncle Will Perdue karaoke party?
That 9,000 one got out of hand.
At Big Dave's house. Or, after a tough loss, settle the score with an ice cold peace offering. Make the choice to choose chill, then reach for an icy cold Coors Light. It's mountain cold refreshment. When the mountains turn blue, you know that delicious beer inside is as cold as the Rockies and ready for consumption. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. When you embrace a chill mindset, that's a great time. To choose chill, crack open a Coors Light. Make the most of the times you choose chill and get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO basketball. That's CoorsLight.com/CHGO basketball. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Yes.
I can almost taste it with that sound effect.
Once it hits your lips.
So good. Yeah, Camille in the comments.
I was going to ask Kay to put that up. Wait a minute.
Jake Fischer curb stomping our hopes, but at least he's real.
That's all we try to do.
I mean, I fully agree with what he said towards the end there about, like, look, we keep looking at that December 15th date because it's sort of like the unofficial grand opening of NBA's in-season trade season.
Yes.
But some players, as is Patrick Williams' case, as we mentioned yesterday, aren't tradable yet.
Yeah.
January 15th.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of conversations and negotiations and let me call you back. I'm going to call this person. Let me call you back. I'm going to call this person to go into maybe some of these in-season trades getting made between teams, and that we still got a ways to go to figure out what, if anything, the Bulls front office is going to be able to accomplish.
Yeah.
I like that he just took, I hate to tell you, to a whole nother level.
He really did.
Will Gottlieb was very proud.
I was proud of that one.
Very proud.
No, I mean, I think it's just the reality of the situation is they are not in an advantageous spot to be able to move some of these guys out.
Sexy
and how many times have we talked about that being the case? So, I mean, to me, that's why, you know, as we've talked about referencing his article, like, could the Bulls get 2 second-round picks for Vooch? And your response was like, sign me up, let's do it, because not like that's a great value for Vooch, who's like in a vacuum way better than 2 second-round picks. But it's about how can you start to move on? How can you get something for a guy that's value is pretty low around the league? Again, not because of the player that he is, but because of the contract that he's on. The other thing that struck me is like winning these deals on the margins and the Bulls overpaying by a few $1 million or 1 year or the player option. It's like all these stuff, they really compound and make somebody go from, you know, a value deal to an okay deal to a negative value deal. And when you give a guy a couple $1 million more than what he's worth and a player option and an extra year, it's just nobody around the league really wants that. And then you're stuck in a position where, yeah, Patrick Williams is really important, but because you're overpaying him relative to the market and because you've given him this player option and because of his health, teams aren't willing to look at to look into that. And so it's just another example of the Bulls, I think, being a little bit higher on their own players than the rest of the market, which in a vacuum is not such a terrible thing. It's just the fact that they've done that repeatedly with almost everybody on their roster.
Thank you.
And now you're in a
Exactly
situation
what I was
where
about
it's
to say.
just hard to move any of these guys, let alone one or two of them. And so I think I've kind of been dancing around this, and we've been talking about it. Like,
Gottlieb shuffle.
I wouldn't get my hopes up about the Bulls being able to move any single one of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like, you know, if you take the field versus like a certain team, like maybe they'll be able to move one of them. But I think it's just everybody presents their own challenges. Teams are not like banging down the Bulls' door to come and get any of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just going to be tough.
Yeah.
And then what happens, as he alluded to, if there's no market for Vooch, if you can't move Zach and you don't want to move Kobe and Io, what do you do on February 6th?
Yeah. Cry. Thank you. So what you said right there, I'm so glad you said it, that's it for me. Is it's something that we've continued to see them do, is basically overvalue their guys. And I still remember when it was put out that they were willing to listen to offers for Zach LaVine, and we started hearing what was coming out, what they wanted, and we were like, what? Like, okay, maybe a couple years ago, but as of right now, you can't be on that wavelength. Even the Andre Drummond one you brought up, that was turned down. Even the constant reporting we heard of what was being offered for Caruso that they turned down. They're continuing to shoot themselves in the foot with this, and you only got two of them, bro. Like, yeah, they're really putting themselves in these bad positions, and the fault is their own. You can't really fault anyone else for that. You can't say because of the person's play or injury, whatever. You've had opportunity after opportunity to maximize and get rid of some of these guys, and then continue to grow your team as you continue to maybe say, I want to play for this, play in, or maybe I want to do that. You can still, teams do that all the time, can still play and have those kind of things, but they don't seem to know how to do that. And that's the main issue why everybody's like, fine, just start it over. And when they get to that point, it's a little bit too late because they're like, guys, sorry. I thought the great example he brought up was when you're talking about Vooch was Valanciunas. I thought that was the perfect example of right now. Like, yes, Vooch is doing amazing things. He's doing great stuff. He's doing all of that. If he goes to a team, he's coming off the bench. So if you're going to get this guy coming off the bench, you got a guy right here that can double it up also, who's used to doing that and who could just slide right into that, making half of the paper. Yeah. So, yes, man, like the Bulls have really put themselves in a really, really tough position, man. And we just cry.
Bulls fans in our little vacuum of watching Bulls games every night and being like, dude, look at what Vooch is doing.
Balling.
This dude is an all-star.
Balling.
Who doesn't want that?
He's been incredible.
And, the same question, who doesn't want Zach LaVine? One of the most efficient seasons of his career.
Yeah.
And with Zach, it's like, well, it's not necessarily that nobody wants it, but not at that contract.
Right? Yes.
And, like, in some cases, just flat out cannot do it while abiding by the NBA's rules.
Yeah.
Vooch, it's like, okay, well, he's making half the money Zach is, but still $20 million is $20 million, and half of 20 is more easily, digestible.
And it's also for these teams, it's like the opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Just of like, if you trade a D'Angelo Russell for Vooch, now you can't trade D'Angelo Russell for somebody else. So if you're shooting a little bit higher, trying to get a guy that you want even more, you can't do that anymore once you've traded for Vooch. So I think what he was saying about like maybe on February 6th, it looks a little bit different when teams have already exhausted all those conversations. Sure. But we can get more into that after the break.
We got to knock out one more quick ad, and then we will come back. I want to get to the thing you were saying about overvaluing players that the Bulls have a tendency to do.
Yeah.
There's maybe the rest of the league undervaluing them, because there's some interesting comments about that.
Doritos.
That's coming up next. Hit the like button, for crying out loud. Do it for Katie.
She's sick of y'all.
Do it for Troll Joe. Here's some ads. Hello Fresh.
Hello
Fresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. I went to the grocery Sunday after Bulls Sixers, and it was a zoo. It's like the holiday season between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Everybody's going to the grocery.
Yeah.
I hated it. Yeah. I hate it. I want food in my kitchen.
Yeah.
I don't want to do the work to get it there.
Yes.
HelloFresh says, problem solved.
Go home.
Man, it was great. Remember when they sent us Those sample box.
Yes.
HelloFresh meals.
The best.
Delicious.
Yes.
Everybody loves the holidays, but with how busy we are, like me, on Sunday, you're looking for ways to search for recipes without all that grocery shopping. Pick meals with HelloFresh and get everything you need delivered right to your door. Every HelloFresh recipe includes high-quality, sustainably sourced ingredients like produce that comes fresh from the farm. And there's something for everybody to enjoy on HelloFresh's weekly menu. 50 chef-crafted recipes to choose from every week, plus customizable options to make your meals just the way you like them, like ranch and blue cheese.
Hello.
You'll be able to easily satisfy every craving. So here's what you get if you do this. Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com using promo code FREEBULLS. That's FREE Bulls. Applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/FreeBulls. Do it. Free food.
Free food.
Delicious.
Free tastes better.
It does. Thank you. Put that on the shirt. Baby Joey hit me up.
Oh, how's Baby Joey doing?
Oh, he's doing great.
Great.
He's doing awesome, man.
Okay.
He told me he talked to Mama Katie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He said
They're in cahoots now?
Well, yeah, he said he was talking to her. You know, she was out shopping, you know, and he wanted to shout out to her for
Does
the
Mama
Empire
Katie
jingle.
babysit Baby Joey?
Not yet.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, he only lets special, you know,
I feel like
she's
there's
got to get to
something
that level first where, you know, he
Don't we
allows
have a
that to
second
happen.
ad read to do?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what he's doing.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
This is the longest ramp up time.
Are you saying you don't
we've
get
ever
it?
had. No, I don't
Why?
get
You
it.
saying she never understood?
I don't
She
get
never
it.
understood.
I don't get
Why? Why are these glasses costing so much money? She don't get it. Why? Well, Shady Rays didn't get it neither. So guess what? They said they're going to do something about it. So get ready for that season, y'all. Ahead with those quality shades that are built to last, because our friends at Shady Rays have got you covered with those premium polarized shades that will not, I repeat, will not break the bank. Shady Rays, that independent sunglasses company that's offering that world-class product that's rated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. Over 300,000 people. Their shades are durable frames. The shades have crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for your outdoor. And as this man will prove, in any weather, your indoor adventures. They got hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. And guess what? They probably got a pair in your favorite team's colors. That's what they do. Plus, guess what? If you don't love them shades, exchange for a brand new pair. Return them worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop, and their team has always got your back. So exclusive from the listeners out there. Shady Rays is giving away their best deal of the season. Head to ShadyRays.com. Use that promo code CHGO for 35% off those premium polarized shades. By yourself. The shades that are rated 5 stars. Over 300,000 people, because Shady Rays, y'all, when the Rays are oh so shady.
Speaking of free food, did Will tell you guys that he stole lunch from middle schoolers today?
What you tricking for?
Fake
Will
news. Fake news.
Will stole food from who?
Fake
It
news.
sounds like she, you know.
We don't need to talk about that. Let's talk more about trades.
Sound like
Trades
the
are more
police
interesting.
right there. Like,
Snitches get stitches.
You know
He's
what
a
I'm saying?
fraudster.
What is this?
Wee-woo, wee-woo.
What is
He's a fraudster.
Yeah, let us talk more about
Worse than
trades.
peer, peer, peer.
I wanted to get to this sequence
Kenny,
of
woo-woo.
comments from Andrew McKay.
Did it to yourself.
As Big Dave was talking about the Bulls overvaluing their players when maybe doing trades, but mostly just not doing trades because trades are hard.
What's up, Drew?
Andrew said, you guys are falling into a trap as far as our conversation about Windhorst and that stuff from yesterday. First, Windy said, rival GMs say AK wants too much for Zach and too much for Vooch. Then a week later, Windy says he, quote, just wants to add that he hears no trade chatter for Zach.
Mm-hmm.
And then Andrew went on to say, you say Windy knows what's happening around the league, especially with Clutch. Well, yeah, Clutch wants Zach traded, preferably to the Lakers. And like last year, Windy is suggesting that the Bulls need to accept less than they want for Zach. Windy is working for Clutch, putting their narrative out there. Give Acme some grace for not buying what LAL are selling.
No, sell it.
There's a lot
Go sell
there, and I think Andrew does have a good point, to a point, in that, like, yeah, Windy, a lot of the stuff that he hears, yeah, will come from Clutch.
I stated that yesterday.
LeBron, Clutch people. We mentioned that in our conversation yesterday. But I don't know if it's like the Bulls needing to accept less than what they want for Zach as being something that's pushed by Windhorst. It's like, hey, Bulls, just give us Zach LaVine for nothing because he's doing that for Clutch and Clutch clients and the Lakers, namely. I do think there is truth on both sides, which is that the Bulls tend to overvalue their players.
Yeah.
And it makes them hesitant to trade them. And Windy didn't say, hey, the Bulls need to accept less in these offers for what, he said he's not hearing any trade market. Nothing. None whatsoever. Are you suggesting that's his tactic to say no one wants Zach? I guess Lakers, parentheses, Windhorst, will take him off your hands, but we're not going to give you anything for him. Because, come on.
Well, I think, yes, the Bulls overvalue their players. I also think that they,
historically overvalue.
They're just more important to the Bulls than they are to another team. Like, if you're bringing in Vooch, if you're another team, like as we've talked about before, are you really going to close with him in a high-level playoff series? Like, there's probably going to be some games where you do, but there's also probably going to be some games where you don't. If you're the Warriors, you're going to want to close with Draymond at the 5. If you're the Grizzlies, you're going to want to close with Jaren Jackson at the 5. That's just the reality of the situation. So if you are one of those teams, are you giving up a first-round pick to get a guy who absolutely will help you? Nobody's arguing that.
Sure.
But that may not close in the most important moments of your season. And I just think that's a difficult decision to come to. And maybe the Lakers do it. I mean, they could be in on Vooch too. Who knows? I think that's another destination that makes some sense. So I think Vooch is valuable around the league. Zach is valuable around the league. But when they're more valuable to the Bulls as their number 1 and number 2 best players, guys that you can't take off the court at all, no matter how you want to close, because those are your best 2 guys, you're always going to think that they're worth more to you than they are to the other team. So that means you're going to want more from the other team than what they're willing to offer. So I think that the disconnect just comes from the fact that the Bulls have constructed this team that wants to remain competitive, but that doesn't have a ton of upside. When you have players like Zach and Vooch, they're always going to be important to you because you want to remain competitive. But to another team who wants to bring them in as their 3rd or 4th or whatever best player, they're just not going to be as valuable to those teams, and therefore they're not going to be willing to give up what you're looking for. And again, you bring it back to the 2 second-round picks thing for Vooch, and it's like, okay, you got to make a decision then. Because if that's the best you're going to get, you either got to do it or you got to stick with him and hope that he gets more value later, but also put yourself in position to potentially lose out on your pick. And that is at the crux of the Bulls season of do they want to risk losing their pick, or not only just losing it, but getting the 10th pick in a year where there's actual guys at the top of the draft and you're trying to be bad.
Yeah.
Do you want to use a down year to get a Liam McNeely, or do you want to use that down year to get Cooper Flagg? And to me, the decision is quite obvious, but I also understand that it's a little bit more difficult when you're talking about, as Jake was saying, guys that you've invested in, that you've paid, that you've won with at a certain point, to just give them up for less than what you think they're worth. I can understand why that's hard, but at a certain point, it's your future is also pretty valuable. And so you have to decide, is it worth the sunk cost to just move on and be able to move forward?
Yeah. Those are bars right there. Even if it's the 2 second-round picks, Matt, what did Jim Carrey say in Liar Liar when they offered him a settlement?
Saddle!
Take it. Take the deal, please.
Don't want it, saddle.
But the other piece,
sounds like.
the other piece is well, what if they could get a first for him this summer?
Ugh.
That carrot, as you like to say, is always going to be there dangling in front of them. And I think that's what makes cutting bait so challenging. And again, I think they should have made this decision a long time ago when you could have gotten something for him, and then you're not worried about all this.
Sure.
But again, the situation that they put themselves in, where they are now, I can understand why it's hard. At the same point, you've already put your foot halfway into the direction of keep your pick, focus around the young players.
Exactly.
You can't just say,
that's my point.
I'll stay.
I'll stay.
I'll stay.
No, that's not how that works. Both feet in or both feet out. That is my whole entire point right there, Will. You've made your decision.
In referencing the important thing being looking ahead, and making sure that you get that pick. more so than making sure you try and win these trades. Fish in the comments said we're going to end up with another Kirk in a historic draft. Facepalm emoji. Be careful, Fish.
Yeah. Shout out, Fish.
Argo Katie here.
Yeah, Fish.
You are referring to the, up until very recently, Bulls franchise 3-point made leader.
Tell that truth, Fish.
Fish and I were best friends until about 7 seconds ago, and now I'm deeply offended.
Friendship broken, friendship over.
Deeply offended.
Fish and I are still best friends. Like, that is brilliant.
I also like this exchange in the comments. Mitch, the Saints fan, said, all this hypothetical talk is pointless. AK is going to do AK isn't going to do shit. We're going to lose our pick and be sad as F. Let's be realistic.
Matt?
CJ, hello? Is that me?
Is that you?
In the multiverse?
Oh, man.
CJ Ortiz said, Mitch, this is our therapy, praying that they get it right. People still go to church even though they know the world is screwed.
That's a bar.
This is our therapy. We talk about trades the Bulls might make or might not make, and we'll continue to do so in this part of the season when trades are all the buzz and all the talk. And for the love of God, we hope they do something that benefits, as Goat just laid out, their long-term plans.
Yeah.
That, like, whether it's this player or that player, trading with this team, trying to trade with that team, what we are talking about always is getting this team back in a positive direction.
Yeah.
Forward momentum towards actual legitimate competition.
Yeah.
And the steps that are needed to be taken to do that.
Yeah, that's true. Katie, you want to say something?
Yeah, can I just give you guys one other comment that made me chuckle? It's just the first line of this one. Before you even start the stupid. Like, that really just cracked me up. And then Zach and Vuce are both all-stars, and no other player on the Bulls roster will ever be all-stars. They need to trade 2 guards, but neither is LaVine. But before you start the stupid, okay?
Before you start the stupid. Just don't start the stupid.
He's either a teacher or
again,
has children.
like, you are absolutely right. Zach and Vuce are playing like all-stars this year. This is not talking about them not being good or
at all.
They need to get rid of them because these guys stink. That could not be further from the truth. They've been outstanding. I think both of them are having maybe the best year of their entire career.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is wild.
So it's about the position that you're putting yourself in and the direction of your team.
Yeah.
Did I see we got a super chat that we had to shout out, Katie? Jay Maurice said, if the Bulls want value, they have to stop acting desperate. Vooch is having an all-star year. You lose negotiations at what was the last bit of that? Sorry, I didn't see it. Went away.
The super chat.
Super chat. Oh, there it is on the screen.
If the Bulls want value, they have to stop acting desperate. Vooch is having an all-star year. You lose negotiating leverage. If you have to move a guy, relax.
Yeah. I mean, kind of goes along with what somebody else in the comments was saying. Like, don't be desperate.
Yeah.
You know, hold your ground. Just because Windhorse is out there saying, hey, there's nothing on the Zach LaVine trade market.
Hold the door.
Hold on.
Oh, no.
Sad.
Remember that?
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't get up from the couch for like a solid half hour after the end credits on that episode rolled. Damn. Oh, remember when that show was good?
Man.
Bigger crash and burn. AK navigating trades or the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones.
Oh. That's an hour-long show there.
On tomorrow's episode of CHGO Bulls.
Please do better. Please do better.
Do better.
Please. God.
Just do better.
Please do better.
That's all we're asking.
We got to get out of here for today. We are back tomorrow and back to our normal time tomorrow, 5:30 Central Time, with another live pod for y'all. In the midst of this quiet week for the Bulls, no games between Sunday and Friday. Tomorrow is the Wednesday in there. Are they doing another practice tomorrow, Goat? I know they were off yesterday and practice today.
Tomorrow.
Practice tomorrow?
See you there.
See you there. This guy's going to be there working hard.
Getting those shots up.
Will_Gottlieb is where you can find his Bulls reporting. AllCHGO.com is where you can read his stuff.
Too early.
Big Dave is at Bow, BAWL Sports.
Bow!
In your face.
Too early.
I'm Bulls_Peck. We are CHGO_Bulls. Shout out and thanks to our queen of the controls, the one and only Katie Duvey. For the love of God, hit the like. Just do it.
Do it.
Make sure you also subscribe to that CHGO Sports YouTube channel.
She will fight you.
Get yourself a ticket. CHGO Bulls Top Shelf Takeover. Derrick Rose Night. Tickets going. And supply is extremely limited.
Better come hang, y'all.
We'll talk to you tomorrow at 5:30 Central. Until then, have a great night. See you, Red. Be good.
Love you, Mama Katie.
Whoop, whoop.
Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.